Jack Ebling here with Lindsey Huddleston at Ohio Stadium. And we saw Michigan State fall to the Ohio State Buckeyes 34-10. Wasn't a big surprise. Ohio State was a 20-point favorite going in, but Michigan State in the first quarter survived a lot of mistakes and was only down 3-0, and then the second quarter came. And that was the end of the game.
And the birthday party was over. That locker room and talking to those players afterwards, it was a somber mood. You know, I guess they really thought that they could do it, but they were dealing with one of the best teams in the country, right?
Well, that's what you would expect. They're going to come in here and think they can win. If they can't, they should stay home.
Right.
And they held Ohio State to 16 yards in the first quarter, only trailed 3-0, and that was after 2 fumbles in their first 4 offensive plays. But in the second quarter, Ohio State didn't gain 16 yards, they gained 296 yards.
That's big. Jack, you and I were talking up top in the press box as we were watching this. I think it came down to a matter of talent, the individuals on the one sideline compared to the other, some of the top players in the country compared to, maybe not 5-star or 4-star recruits.
Yeah, the question is, how many Michigan State players could start for Ohio State? I will say 3.
Wow.
And I think that's true for just about every team in the Big Ten. Maybe Wisconsin have a few more. Maybe Penn State would have more. Michigan might have a few more. But Ohio State has a talent edge on every team in the league, and you have to play a near perfect game to hang with them in the fourth quarter. Michigan State did anything but, with the 2 early turnovers, missed 29-yard field goal, Brian Lewerke, a terrible pitch out in the first quarter, and then the ball that he overthrew Cody White, that would have been a touchdown. Instead, they have to settle for a field goal on defense. Missed assignments, shoddy tackling, and when that happens against a team like Ohio State, it gets ugly in a hurry. Ohio State had scored way more than 34 points, but it still looks like a bad L.
Yeah, it's almost like the turnovers were exacerbated. I'm thinking coming into this, huge venue, they wanted to do well, but I don't even recall seeing that many turnovers of that magnitude throughout this season. It seemed like they all culminated tonight with what was going on. What do you think?
Well, they had the 2 early ones, and then they didn't have any for quite a while.
Right.
But you're playing a team like Ohio State again. You cannot afford to have penalties for alignment. They had 2 gains that were called back because they had 5 players in the backfield. You cannot have that. That is basic, fundamental football. You need 7 or more players on the line of scrimmage. Michigan State cannot afford to have guys come up the A-gap on field goals. Matt Coughlin missed one and made one. Despite that, the ball nearly got blocked. So Michigan State has a lot of cleanup work to do, and it's getting late in the season. We are to the halfway point.
Wow. And
the Spartans have to play at Wisconsin, and then after the bye, they're home against Penn State. Nobody in the country had a tougher month this season than playing Ohio State, at Wisconsin, Penn State. That's 3 teams in the top 12. So you have to bring your A game.
Right. Some things you mentioned that had nothing to do with talent on the other side of the field with the Ohio State Buckeyes, the things that they were doing, the plays that the Michigan State players were making, and missed field goals. Now we're getting into the mental toughness part, I think, again. And I think this was the time they were exposed. But is it even fair to say there's a question about their mental toughness when, again, they're playing one of the best teams in the country?
I think they fought for the whole game. I don't think they gave up. I think that they hung in there. They only allowed 7 points in the second half to one of the most explosive teams in the country. But that second quarter, you can't give up 296 yards in a half, let alone in a quarter of football. Right. And when you do that against a team like Ohio State, especially here, with 104,000 people for homecoming,
yes, it was.
You're cruising for a bruising.
Right. It's a different team. It's not, when I look at the Indiana game, we talked about that third quarter and what was going to happen. I remember Raekwon Williams say they didn't panic. But in this particular case, on the road, in this, infamous environment, it seemed like that second quarter Ghost reared his head again. That second half Ghost reared his head again.
No, this is totally different.
Okay.
They weren't playing in Indiana. They weren't playing the teams they have played thus far. They weren't playing Arizona State. They're playing one of the top 5 teams in the country. And when you're playing a team like Ohio State, where you're at a decided talent disadvantage at most positions, And if you have bad execution, you're going to lose. And that's not a matter of coaching. You can pick at some of the coaching decisions. You can pick at some of the individual plays. I thought Josiah Scott had a horrific tackle attempt. I didn't understand that. I didn't think Kalen Gervin ran as hard as he could on that pass, the touchdown to Benjamin Victor. I thought there were a lot of plays where Michigan State made a mistake, and if you make a mistake against Ohio State, you're going to lose the game.
To that point, speaking of coaches, Coach D'Antonio was in the press conference. We talked about the Josiah Scott move. He complimented him for being able to run the Ohio State player down, but you think he's given up public cover to cover for his players, and he may do some motivation when he gets back in the locker room?
Yeah, he said you can't do that. You can't try to make that play. You can't just punch at the ball. You've got to wrap up and make that tackle. And there's no question. I mean, these guys, they're not going to melt. They can take a little criticism. I know from your perspective in terms of psychology, you worry about that. I worry more about execution.
Right.
And these guys did not execute well enough at the times they needed to do it, and the result is 34-10.
Is it possible going up against this team that's a great team, and with this crazy schedule they have as it relates to who they have to see next coming up and after that this may be a good primer for them to be able to play their best going forward, you think? A
number of players said they're glad they have another tough game coming up because they know what's ahead of them. They know they have to play better. They have to play 4 quarters, not 1 quarter. And if they do that, if they clean everything up, they'll have a chance against Wisconsin. If they don't, it'll be the same thing.
Are we at the home field of a college playoff team, a potential national championship team?
That's a great question. And I think that you might be. I think that with Justin Fields, with the mobility he has, the size and power he has, J.K. Dobbins, the army of receivers, it seems like they run out there. They have so many of them. And they have a very quick defense. They have guys who can get after you. Chase Young, we saw what he could do. Malik Harrison in the middle. We know what Jeffrey Acuna could do. In the secondary, they have a lot of guys who can hurt you. And Michigan State found that out the hard way.
They did. As we look at the time, what's going to be happening soon on a Press Pass preview going forward?
Tomorrow night, looking forward to having Tom Crawford back with us.
He's going to be feeling good.
He'll be excited about Michigan's 10-3 win
over Iowa.
Kind of an ugly game. Neither team gained 300 yards, but Michigan's defense was terrific, and Nate Stanley was immobile. He got sacked 8 times. Iowa had a lot of penalties, and Stanley hadn't thrown an interception. Suddenly he throws 3 of them. But we're also going to have Graham Couch with us, and he's here tonight. So he will be back joining us on the panel, as will Darian Harris. We'll talk to Darian about bouncing back after a loss like this. But Michigan State is halfway through the season, 4-2. And for them to avoid a 5-loss season, that means they're going to have to win at Wisconsin, beat Penn State, or win at Michigan. And right now, all of those look daunting. Maybe the game against Michigan might be the best chance, but if Michigan State plays the way it did today, it won't beat the Wolverines either.
Yeah, we were in town for lunch, and we got to catch the Iowa-Michigan game. I never knew there were so many Iowa fans in Columbus.
Yeah, it's amazing. There are a lot of Iowa fans today in East Lansing, too, I'll tell you.
Right.
Yeah, well, nobody likes Michigan except Michigan.
Right, you're
right.
You
go to the Big Ten basketball tournament, and everybody boos Michigan.
Wow. Well, this is a great experience coming down to this iconic location. I appreciate you being a great host to bring me in here. Look forward to getting on the road with these guys again and being able to see Michigan State work hard to get to where they need to be.
And we'll be back with Press Pass previews Tuesday next week. Don't forget, Press Pass, and that is 11 o'clock, 11 to midnight every Sunday on Fox 47. You can also go to drivewithjack.com or fox47news.com/presspass, and we'll see you then.
See you later.